a suburb in Sydney. That's why I couldn't do. I wasn't able to do videos regularly. And yesterday I watched One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson. And I'll tell you something, it's probably the most satisfying experience that I've had watching a Hollywood movie in years, I would say. I don't know when, I don't even remember when was the last time I watched a movie, a Hollywood movie. I generally don't post reactions to Hollywood movies because these days, I mean, they are so bad. But except for a few directors, like, you know, even Tarantino has been a bit disappointing in the recent times. I like Coen Brothers, but I've never watched the movie in theaters. And Paul Thomas Anderson is another one such director whose movies I have never watched in the theaters. I think because his movies are like I don't think they get released in India because like I was in India till the previous PTA movie that I watched I remember was Inherent Vice, and that was back in Pune, and that was like I think 2014 or something like that. I don't think it released in Pune in the first place. So India is not like every single Hollywood movie gets released in India, right? So that's another thing. But I'll tell you the story of how I got to know about Paul Thomas Anderson in the first place. Like I this was like maybe 10-15 years ago. That's when I slowly started getting into, around 2007 8 is when I started watching 6, I would say 2006 is when I started watching movies. I mean I became a movie buff kind of, I would say. And as just like everybody started with Tarantino and all the typical movies, the world movies, and the usual kind of stuff, right? And then I got into European cinema, and that was I started getting really, watching Spanish, Italian, French, and all that kind of stuff. And I had a colleague back in Pune. He was a big mm, Daniel Day Lewis fan. Daniel Day Lewis and Paul Thomas Anderson. He was a big fan of both of them, and even fucking Phoenix. So him and his friend, they recommended Coen Brothers and Paul Thomas Anderson. I think this was like maybe 2013 or 2014, around that time, or even before that, maybe 2012. Don't exactly remember. So I'm slowly starting to watch Coen Brothers, the Big Lebowski, and this guy recommends Magnolia, There Will Be Blood, and movies like that. And I don't know, I wasn't like that big of a fan. It was like a kind of how do we say, like who's a better movie buff kind of a thing going on between me and him. I would recommend like a European movies, he would recommend Hollywood guys. So it would be something like, hey, do you know Reservoir Dogs? And I would say, no, did you know Quentin Tarantino's inspiration for Reservoir Dogs is so and so Belgian movie and this? So it would be like yeah, so who's a better movie buff kind of a thing. But he was like proper cinephile. Like he would watch Oscars and he would predict which movie would win Oscar, and he that would happen. Whatever movie he predicted would win the Oscar. He was that big of a movie buff. I was like not even close. He would like just when we are talking, he would say movie dialogues. That kind of like he was crazy when it comes to Hollywood movies. I wasn't anywhere close to his level when it comes to movie proficiency, or the actors, the names of the actors, and I, I still did. I don't think Daniel Day Lewis. I don't know. He probably is a good actor, but after a certain point, you start to question, right? Like they, when you read the Wikipedia articles and say this guy was nominated 5 times but won 3 times, you start to question, like, seriously? I mean, maybe he's a good actor, but there must have been some kind of politics. You know what I mean? Like, you can't you can't tell me that he was so good, and uh, everything, all of his awards and accolades were purely because of his talent. I don't believe in that, because especially when it comes to Hollywood, Hollywood is a there's a lot of politics that happen in Hollywood. So there's a lot of guys who get like artificially, pushed to fame, and that kind of stuff happens in Hollywood as well, right? So I don't think Hollywood is all about talent and artwork. I think there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of politics and favoritism and this and that, right? You make a certain kind of a movie and you win Oscar, as Ricky Gervais says in one of his monologues. So I was never a big fan of Daniel Day Lewis, and neither Paul Thomas Anderson. I like Coen Brothers more than Paul Thomas Anderson. His movies are a bit slow, and sometimes I fell asleep watching Inherent Vice, to be honest. But this movie, I watched it in theater. My very first Paul Thomas Anderson movie, watching in theaters in Sydney, and I really liked it. Um, it's a story about like an ex-revolutionary. It's like a far left guys fighting against I don't know, establishment and anti-immigration authorities and whatnot. And then one of them gets caught, and then rats out all the other guys, and then they go into hiding, and then 15 years later, again, they need to come back together to basically save DiCaprio's character's daughter. So there's a lot of this far left ideology, and the typical far left propaganda stuff happening in the movie. But there's so many things that I liked in the movie. Like, there's this subtle humor, like dark humor. I wouldn't say dark humor. It's just humor, especially Sean Penn's character that he plays. The army guy, the anti-immigration officer types, and he has an interesting. So he starts off as this guy and then gets promoted to a colonel, and then eventually there's be a little bit of spoilers. So if you've not watched it, maybe skip. And so in the end, he tries to get into this white supremacy kind of a group. that's a, that's another funny part in the movie. But I think there are such groups, right? Like when you ascend to a certain level in these countries, like Western countries, um, they try and recruit you, your racial purity and that kind of stuff. There are some higher ups there. I believe that there are some people there who, like, secret societies and whatnot. Like, if you yeah, if you that's a big rabbit hole. If you start digging into that, if you start watching videos on YouTube, it'll take you into such a, I mean, really scary, bizarre kind of rabbit hole, and you want to get out of it right away. I I try to I try to get it like after a certain point you start to wonder, shit, is this like what is real anymore, you know what I mean, like that I I experienced that like maybe 10 years ago. I went into the YouTube rabbit hole about this whole what do you call that, the Illuminati stuff on YouTube, and oh shit, I got it was it was uh, it was weird and creepy and scary at the same time. And there's another interesting one of my favorite actors, Benicio del Toro, in the movie as well. His character is like a karate sensei, karate or judo, I don't know. So his character is like, yeah, DiCaprio's daughter's karate master kind of, and I liked his role as well. He doesn't talk much, but his character is really funny too, and especially the actresses. Tiana Taylor, I think she's the lead revolutionary. French 75, I think is what they call it. And their daughter, she's a new face, I think. Really good acting. Um, you only get to watch such movies once in a blue moon, you know what I mean, like it's movie, the typical commercial mainstream movies get released every now and then, but then movies like Coen Brothers or Tarantino or Paul Thomas Anderson, these guys make movies very not very often, right? And especially like movies where there's long takes and there's no background music, you know. Especially if you watch Coen Brothers, I think the No Country for Old Men movie, I think that didn't even have a background score. I only realized that like when I started reading the Wikipedia article about that movie. I think I'm not sure 100%, but that's the beauty of these directors. Like you don't even realize there's no background music, but you're hooked, starting from the first minute of the movie to the last minute. It's one such movie, No Country for Old Men. I think I can watch it any number of times. I watched it maybe 4 or 5 times. Is one of my favorite movies. And this guy Paul Thomas Anderson is another one such director. Although this movie does have a background score, I sometimes I felt a bit annoyed as well in certain scenes. It was a bit too loud. Not 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 loud compared to the mainstream standard, but even for Paul Thomas Anderson, I think it was a bit too loud. Um, but yeah, that's it's not even a complaint. And I especially like the the ending where so this so Leonardo DiCaprio's character is just a protagonist, but he doesn't do shit in the movie. He's like how do you say, helpless, what do you call, drug addict dad, right? Who does not know what to do anymore. Who's not, if he doesn't even remember the password, he doesn't need that. So all he does is goes in search of his daughter frantically, but doesn't save her in the end either. Like she saves herself, right? But it's a screenplay, and every scene is there's not a single boring scene in the movie. I probably I'll watch it another time, maybe in the coming few days, just to experience, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson's the theatrical experience of Paul Thomas, because as I said, I've never seen a Paul Thomas Anderson movie before in theater, and considering the fact that this movie has DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, and Sean Penn, all the big shots, you know what I mean? Uh, yeah. Hey, Bashia Nadiri, how are you? I'm good. Bashia, how are you? And Rafa Schneider, how are you, Rafa Schneider? I'm doing good. I just moved to a new suburb in Sydney. I'm still unboxing all the stuff. And yeah, just uh, just thought I would do a quick live and say hi to all of you guys. So yeah, if you like if you like such movies like slow, you know uh, movies but that have really good story and screenplay and direction, craft wise, yeah, go watch this movie. I think you'll love it. I'm a big fan of such movies. That doesn't mean I don't watch commercial Hollywood movies. That I do. Like John Wick is one of my favorite movies in the recent times, and I watched Interstellar for the 10th time, I think, like a few weeks back in IMAX. And yeah, but these kind of movies you get to watch once in a while. This apparently is 10th movie, Paul Thomas Anderson's 10th movie. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.